One second.
There we go. And okay, so oh, literally, he's saying.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
No, I can't. I'd have to restart the entire thing. So for the viewers who will watch this later, we're with John Gray of Mentionmapp. He'll make a dramatic entrance down the stairs. Serious.
The downside of the home-based office, and today is the day that some people had to come and do some work. So tool time. I've got tool time happening up in my bedroom right now.
What could be more appropriate?
It's just meant to be. So we are live.
So John, could you introduce yourself and mention that?
Thanks. So as we've gone around the table, John Gray, I'm co-founder and the nominary title of CEO. It's just a title. I do a whole lot other than code. And Vancouver, BC's home, and BC's been home all my life. Great place to call home. So basically, Mentionmapp, we built it originally in 2009. So I've had two co-founders behind this project. One is still in my corner and still working away on building what you see today. So it was sort of a bit of a lark that one of our co-founders built Mentionmapp because he thought, hey, this Twitter API looks pretty cool in 2009. And suddenly we saw ourselves getting blogged about. We saw some traffic to the project because he built it in a fairly short amount of time because he was a really talented young guy, is a talented young guy. So typical startup thing. Vancouver's a tough place to try to raise money, to try to do a lot of things. We learned a lot of lessons, but suffice to say that in 2011 we had an opportunity to sell our assets, largely the data visualization library of code that had been built and that Mentionmapp was built upon. So Mentionmapp basically got orphaned. It was left on the web all alone and unattended for almost 4 years. And the people that sort of bought our assets approached my co-founder and I in late 2014. And anyhow, so let's just say we got it back. And then my co-founder and I decided that we could try to do something more with it, do some things we couldn't do back in 2010, 2011. So we've been pushing along. We're bootstrapped. We're a small, lean team, and we want to keep it that way because, in all fairness, we've got some interesting depth and breadth of people using it and coming in on a regular basis. And our feeling is we'll build something better by having conversations with people like yourselves. Listening and learning than trying to build something to make investors happy. So I sort of don't buy into the whole unicorn porn thing that's going on out there. So we want to build a business that's based on some value, and the only way we can do that is to understand what people really need to get out of this. So been a bit of a data visualization nerd, I guess now, really for about the last 6 years. I think for us, the overarching thing is that, and yes, in spite of all the naysayers, and I think they're mostly Twitter investors on Wall Street that are beating up Twitter. And yes, Twitter has to figure a few things out, but I think in terms of, a place of, shall we say, a fluid dynamic and a global conversation, I think I'm bullish on Twitter. But that's probably the old radio broadcaster in me is, I see it sort of that reach and frequency. And but the issue for me is that there's a lot of great things going on, but it's that linearity of the feed. Be it your Twitter client, be it TweetDeck, be it Hootsuite. You're viewing essentially. You can't even call it a stream. It's like a tsunami of stuff flowing through your feed, right? So for us, the big thing with Mentionmapp is just to have something that's giving you a chance to navigate that social conversation. I think that highlights what I think is a variety of networked conversation. So that's sort of the high level of, you know, what gets us up. And I mean, there's so much that, you know, we want to do. There's so much we still believe we know we can do to keep mapping out this Twitter ecosystem. You know, but it's important for us too is that there's a lot of amazing data visualization out there, but when you look at it, you go, wow, that looks cool, but now what do I do with it? So for us, a big part of it is just really what we're trying to do is, you know, just really be design focused and to make sure that, you know, for all of our members that are, you know, coming and using it, that it's accessible, right? That when you see that visualization, you're gonna have some level of, you know, a sense of, you know, having an intuitive experience where you're just gonna go, okay, this is what I need to search. This is what I want to do. It's not going to be overwhelming and it's not going to be inaccessible. So that's, yeah, want it to be elegant, want it to be simple. There's enough complexity. I don't want to build a platform that's got a whole bunch of features, a whole bunch of tools that's bloated, that's cumbersome, and that's, you know, like I said, I'd rather build stuff that people need than just build stuff. And that makes my co-founder happy too, because I think having that focus will end up, I think, with a better experience for everybody. So I guess if you'd like, I'm happy to sort of do a little bit of show and tell, and we've still got to work through some of our UI. I know we sort of get on our own way. We've buried a few interesting things in there. We're working on some UI issues right now to, shall we say, unlock some of the features that we've got in there that I think will help. You know, because it's not just about discovery right now. Is my other thing is that what really motivates me is that you see so much reporting out there in terms of the reporting tools for social. Pie charts, bar graphs, dumping stuff into spreadsheets. And I don't think that those are really obviously capturing the moments, capturing the real social conversation per se. So what we're trying to do is build some, you know, really lightweight tools to help you sort of capture that conversation. So if you're okay, I'll just do a quick little run through of some of the things that we've got happening right now. Needless to say, I've got a fairly long laundry list of things we want to do. And that's where I hope one of the takeaways of this conversation will be, is for us to follow up. And because I really have a lot of, like I said, I'm excited about having a chance to have a conversation after the fact with you guys. And just really, you know, start to get a sense of some priorities and help us sort of set that roadmap moving forward. Because just in context, my co-founder, he's not full time. That's how bootstrapped we are right now. So we try to be really focused when we decide we're going to build something. We want to make sure that we're, you know, maximizing his time. We're building something that's going to make sense and deliver that next bit of incremental value for people who are using Mentionmapp. So I'll dive into the screen sharing thing, and I'm going to go here. And I guess, okay, it says that I'm sharing the screen, so I think it's this one, I hope. Oh, yes, it says that I'm sharing. So look at, I'm logging in right now.
Yep, we can see it.
There we go, great. So this is what everybody gets to see right at this minute. So just right up front is, you log in with your own Twitter credentials. What we're showing you is a collection of the last 200 tweets, and it's the 5 profiles that you've mentioned the most. So in this case, I've, you know, Digiday, Social Media Examiner, Quartz, Fast Company, and Atlas Obscure have gotten my most mentions out of the last 200 tweets. So when we mouse over the center node, what we've got is basically those numbers, thickness of lines. So those represent basically the volume of tweets. So 3 tweets at Quartz, 4 Fast Company Design. So that's what those numbers represent. It also pulls the last 2 hashtags that you've used the most. So in my case, DataViz and Twitter. One of the things I want to highlight is you can, any of the lines that you mouse over, you can click on those lines, and now we can actually see the tweets that you've shared between nodes. And so this goes with this 200 tweet feed and the 5 most mentioned, or in the case of, say, if we look at the hashtag, so this will be the 5 profiles that have mentioned that hashtag the most. So in this case, for DataViz, interesting collection of folks that have used the hashtag DataViz. So that's the last 200 again. And interesting enough, DataViz has been combined with Python and health. So whenever you look at a hashtag, it actually pulls the two next most used hashtags in conjunction with it. So it's kind of interesting to see how people are combining elements of the conversation. So I know for people that are doing, for instance, like some content type marketing, they'll come to Mentionmapp and they'll search hashtags and they'll just look right now for the relevancy of that conversation, and at times align some of the content they're creating with that hashtag or with the combination of hashtags. And then it's also interesting sometimes to see how particular hashtags have been hijacked by people, sometimes selling things that are, well, not all that wonderful. So what we can do is now we can click to an outer node, and so that's going to take you outside of that immediate network. So if I wanted to go back, one of the things I've got here is this is our exploration history. So this just, each click you make, it'll take note of how you've gone through the map. So you can always go back. So I can choose go back to Mentionmapp here, or I could go check out DigiDay. We've also got, I can always go home, I can refresh my map, and we can also go back. Because one of the things we found early on is people would naturally look at a map, then they would hit the back button on their browser, and they would be kicked out of their session and they'd have to log back into Mentionmapp. So hence we've built a little back button, and then we can always go home. So we can search. So if we were to take a look, for instance, at, oh, you guys are straight up Peace Tech Lab, right?
Right.
Thank you. So you don't need the @ symbol. We can just search for the profile. So I'll take a look at Peace Tech Lab. There we are. So here's your last 5 most mentioned profiles of your last 200 tweets.
Yeah,
That's not hate speech.
Where does it say?
No, I'm just kidding.
Couple of things, it's going to be released fairly quickly, is that you're going to be able to mouse over any of the nodes in the map, and it's going to render that little pop-up box so you can actually see the profile. Because right now, if I obviously wanted to know more about SciDevNet, I'd have to leave the map, and I would be able to go here, and I would be able to see the details I want to know about them. You can also always follow and unfollow people right out of Mentionmapp. We will go back. We did have it for a while where you could add, if you use lists, you'd be able to add a profile to existing Twitter lists. We were having some issues with the data that we were pulling, so we kind of pushed that feature off, but we'll get back to it. A couple other little things that you can do is you can always retweet, and you can like tweets out of Mentionmapp. So the same thing if we were to go take between the nodes, if I wanted to retweet or like, I can do that.
That's all a new feature too, isn't it, John?
Relatively new. I guess sometimes we're guilty of being a little too subtle. We need to do a little bit better job of, shall we say, guiding people to a few more of these features. And these are some things we're working on, but I think we appreciate, I'm big into sort of that lean thing. So, you get to the point, let's ship, and we'll listen, we'll iterate, and we'll improve on that, rather than, there's no point in trying to wait till you've got it perfect, because you'll never ship anything if you wait that long. So we do have on the roadmap, I don't want to become a publishing platform where you can, start creating new tweets. But what we do want to add is, I think, part of engagement and being connected with your audience. If you're in Mentionmapp, I do want to have it so you'll be able to reply to a tweet. So I think that would just be a nice one more element, so you don't have to leave Mentionmapp if you at that moment wanted to add something to the conversation. But in terms of becoming a publishing platform where you start generating and pushing out your own new content, I'm not going to go where Buffer's doing that, where obviously Twitter's doing that, and where Hootsuite are doing it. That's just not my motivation right now. I do want to highlight a couple things while I have this open. This is new as well. I feel like one of the challenges, I've gotten a fair bit of feedback, is actually saving the tweets. If you were to take a screenshot, you have a picture, but you don't have any actionable information. And in some cases, if you're doing research, you might not necessarily want to like a tweet, and you might not want to send, say, put that profile into a list. You might be doing some form of, research, or you might be looking to archive things. And so right now, what we've done is sort of for one of our first types of reports is, for instance, I can save this particular tweet. So if I go here, I can save this tweet to a list. You'll see it says tweet saved to list. So I can go in here to the file. I'm kind of a big NASA nerd too, so I saved a bunch. But one of the things that I can do is I can go here. I can save the selected tweet. I can then download it to a PDF. I don't know what will happen to our screen here if I do it, but why not? I guess it'll still share the screen. So I'm big into sort of having this shareable, actionable. So in this PDF, what we've now got is that tweet with time and date stamp. We know some things about the publisher of that tweet. We've got sort of key high level, those metrics of the retweet, the likes. But all of these links are accessible, so we can link back through to that article. So what I'm excited about that is that now you can create these different, I call them like a snapshot report, easy to share with people. And I just really believe, I'd like to believe that there's some value in having all that content accessible to colleagues, to bosses, to prospects, to clients. And again, you're sort of not, well, like I say, you don't have to tell everybody you're doing this research. And you can select multiple tweets to add into those reports. So yeah, so that's one of our new things. One of the other things that we've done is this ability. So if I wanted to save this snapshot, it's sort of our Wayback Machine map. So I can save this map. So we could call it what we wanted to call it, and then I could save it. So that's going to save it today. So just to show you, I love live demos. So I like what Paul Salopek is doing. If any of you are familiar with the Eden Walk, he's got this 7-year walk sort of from the cradle of civilization all the way to the tip of Terra del Fuego. And it's a National Geographic sponsored walk, and Paul's a pretty interesting guy. So I've been following the Eden Walk for since he started. And so this is June 5th, 2000, this year at 3:30 in the morning. I saved this map of what Paul was tweeting. And so the reason I call it my Wayback Machine map, because it takes us right back to that exact conversation. And we've got all those tweets from that conversation, and all that information's accessible. So, if you're on the fly, sometimes there's a lot going on, and you might not be able to dig through all of that information that's sitting within that conversation. So I just encourage you to save it, and then you can go back to it tomorrow, go back to it in 2 weeks, and you're still going to have all of that information of that snapshot in time saved. So with that, one of the things that I've been doing is Well, it certainly filled up a fair bit of Twitter, that little event that some folks were having in Cleveland this last few days.
Right.
So I don't have any saved right now because the time has gone by. But these are all shots that I saved from the Republican convention. Well, I'm going to do the same thing for the other guys. But one of the things that I wanted to share with you is that if we were to say, let's go find something else that's maybe not as here. Let's go NASA.
John?
Yeah.
Quick question.
Yes.
The background of the RNC in Cle, what were they using as their cover photo? Because that actually kind of looked like Mentionmapp.
Oh, good question.
Also, so for the hashtags, if you're generating a map, it's the people who show up are determined by the frequency of mentioning that topic.
Yeah.
Within the 200.
Yes. So on our list is definitely to lengthen that timeline. I mean, obviously, for a major event, 200 tweets. That's it doesn't take long for a big conversation or a big world event to have 200 tweets fly by.
Right.
So on our list is to extend that timeline, and but that we've got some creative work to do in terms of rate limiting. Because right now we aren't using the Twitter fire hose. I don't have a relationship with. No. At this point until so we see get to the point where revenue can dictate us starting to use NIP and accessing some of that information. Right now we're just pulling data out of the RESTful API. So of course that's Twitter obviously filtering some of that information that we're getting. And to the best of my understanding, it's probably being filtered by what they're determining as relevancy. But we do want to extend that timeline for people, and we also want to create a calendar view so you can pull tweets based on a time window. As well, we've looked at it. We can do it. I'd like to give you at least 2 more nodes. So I'd like to give you the chance to see like a 5-node map, like sort of a 3-node, a 5-node, and a 7-node. But I don't see us effectively at this point taking it beyond 7 nodes. It just gets way too, just way too messy. So yes, just back to the hashtags. So it is the 5 profiles that have used that hashtag the most within that 200.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
As well as extending the timeline of tweets that we can look at. I do want to sort of give you the option moving forward of sort of a hierarchy of how you're going to filter. You filter the profiles. So rather than say the 5 profiles that have been most mentioned, you might want to look at profiles based on a follower count ratio. You might want to, and just so you don't know, like way high on my list is to give you like a geographic filter, to be able to filter by country, to be able to filter by region. Because we've got a fair number of people that I'm talking with in media, broadcasting, which is an area I'm really interested in Mentionmapp finding a home in the newsrooms. And that's just FYI. I don't get up every day wishing and wanting Mentionmapp to be the next great marketing technology platform to help sell more beer and deodorant. Even though I've got no shortage of brands and those types of organizations taking little pokes at us, I'm more interested in sort of the human story than the material story. So that's why I'm in. That's why I'm excited to be talking with you, and that's why I'm talking to, like I said, some of the people in journalism so one of the things that I did want to share is that with NASA is I'm just going to render a new map of NASA. So here's what's happening as of an hour ago. So what I want to do is, I'm a bit of a, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to save this map. What I want to share with you is that what I can now do is I can actually schedule, because I know you all have lots of things to do other than sitting and being on Mentionmapp 24/7. We want to be start getting useful for you when you're not logged into Mentionmapp. So this is the first step. So one of the things that I can do, I'm going to go. I want to schedule NASA for later today. As you can still see, it's still, so let's say 5:32, or sorry, 15:32, 3:32. So what I'm going to do is I've just scheduled a snapshot of NASA to come up later today at 3:30. So you can take any hashtag, any profile, and start scheduling when you'd like these snapshots to be taken. We do want to create like a bulk scheduler, so you don't have to do one instant at a time. So you know, you'd be able to take a particular hashtag, pick a particular profile, and go, hey, boom, Monday, this time, this time, this time, this time, Tuesday. So that's on our roadmap as well. And then ultimately just like an email alert at the end of the day to remind you, hey, you saved this map or these maps today, you know, come take a look. So these are some things on the short term. Well, the saved maps and the scheduling maps, you can start doing that like right now. And same with the saved tweets and creating the PDF reports. So we've got that. And that's sort of where we're, and just like I said, we're working towards just, shall we say, making a little bit of our early onboarding, some of these things a little more apparent. You know, we do have, if you're totally stuck, these are just some North American trending tweets. We haven't gotten to the point where we can personalize those trends a la right out of your Twitter feed. You know, that'll be something, yeah, that's not high on our list right now, is to, you know, really get that core focus on what's trending yet. And then we'll be adding a suggestion of possibly who to map versus who to follow. But yeah, that's sort of a little bit of where we're at right now, and I'm happy to take some questions and get some feedback. And I'd love to hear from you all, as to go, hey, you know, if you could do this, it would be great.
Yeah. Well, John, thanks for the presentation. I think for me personally, I've got a bunch of different questions. I'm curious about like your plan for a pricing model and how you're going to like distinguish between features. Do you see like the current version of Mentionmapp as the free tier, and then, you know, additional features will be like access to the fire hose kind of things would be membership?
Well, one of my things, again, we got to make that a lot more apparent for people, because we kind of tucked that away. So having a free accessible tool is really important, because like I said, since we put out our first iteration of the new version at the end of last September and started really seeing who's coming, seeing who's using, I'm really blown away at the global audience have using Mentionmapp. Like I say, I've used Google Translate a lot. And yes, actually building in a translation feature is another thing that we would like to do as well. But so I feel I don't want to build something that's of the enterprise class that's going to start pricing this thing where I'd like to believe that nonprofits, activists, people that, you know, care about the social conversation, I don't want to start building a platform that's exclusionary based on excessive pricing. I'd rather have a whole lot of people using it than just a few. So in answer to your question, right now what we've done is, for the free version, we've put a limit around how many searches a month you can do. So right now we've limited that to 15 searches. And by a search, that means when you go right into the search box and search a profile or hashtag, and it renders a map. So if you click on nodes, that doesn't count on a search. If you use the trending hashtags, that doesn't count either. So it's just a straight search. So it's 15 searches a month. One of the things we have built in is that if anybody is using it for free, if they hit that 15th search and they're in the middle of actually working, we send them a nice little message to say, hey, you've hit 15, but keep searching because we know you're working. But when you log out, when you come back, we're hoping you might think about becoming a paid member. Same thing with the saving of maps and scheduling. So it's like you can save 3 tweets, you can save 5 maps, and it's just right now to get some people going. We still have to really sort of gauge the behaviors and see how much people are doing. So I'm flexible on changing that, but our base price is going to be $9 a month for it's like 300 searches a month, and I think saving 50 tweets, and I think so we've opened it up for $9 a month and $90 a year. And then I've sort of built what I call my unlimited plan, where you get to do a whole lot. It'll be $27 a month. And I'm not going to start building like a whole gateway around how many users, i.e. I'm good with extending. So like to one account, I'm good at this point saying, here, give me 5 email addresses and you can all have access to it. If we start getting bigger than that, then I'll start reconsidering things. But again, right now, is my goal is just where we're at. I feel like we've got to start and bringing on board some people that see the potential what we have. Going to give us insightful feedback, not just, hey, I like you. Like I said, I'm really looking for that granularity feedback, use cases, and helping us really prioritize our roadmap. So that said is what I do have, and I've shared this with Giselle. I'm sort of have my, shall we say, early get on board. I'm going to give you my everything plan for like $70 for a year, mainly because, like I said, is having people. I have a lot of value. We do need some revenue coming in. I'm not going to fib about that. Bootstrapping has its downside, and I'm not independently wealthy, but I'm patient. So yeah, so we're just trying to make it reasonable to get people on board that, like I classify as that early adopter type of person that get it, see the potential, and are going to help us set that roadmap moving forward. And just because we take suggestions doesn't mean we can do them all, but let's say that getting enough of the right ideas will help us be a lot more focused and not get into that feature bloat thing.
A lot of the people who attend Peace Tech exchanges, their primary language is something other than English. If you're using the Twitter REST API, I assume that you can do this functionality in whatever language. Is that right?
That's something we've got to dive into, but I definitely appreciate, like I said, just because I've seen that how many how many people I have come into Mentionmapp every day where I know English isn't their first language. So yeah, we've got to work around some localization issues, and I'm sure just at least on the Twitter side of things, we can probably pull that translation feature to integrate that. So yeah, so definitely like geography and translation are very high on our list.
Okay, yeah. So just for us, a lot of our users are based in the Arab world. A lot of the people we work with. So, and Lord knows we know the difficulties and challenges in making a tool that deals with the right to left and the Unicode character sets and things like that. But a lot of the people that we encounter who might be interested in social media analysis, that would be an interesting feature for them.
Cool. Yeah.
Anybody else have questions or comments?
I can say we could definitely pass the hat and come up with $70 for this.
Yeah.
No problem. But I like all the new functionality. You really kind of expanded the things we were using it for at State and the things I used it for here. I really love the scheduling ahead of time. We've got like big events and things, and it'd be really interesting to kind of see that over time.
Or the historical component.
Like capture that as
turning that back and looking at the coup in Turkey, if you know.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
But-
We normally share these kinds of things in.
But so you think that the tool is best used for a small volume of conversations, not so much the million person tweeting about a world event kind of thing?
I'm not one to never say never. I guess right now is just looking. I'm comfortable who we are and what we are at this moment, and so I think right now is just focusing on that, being that lightweight, accessible, quick glance at what's going on, high level view without diving in too terribly deep. Because I know that I know there's a lot bigger people mining a lot more data and probably visualizing a lot more than what we're doing right now. Again, I think, like I say, if we can address how to filter through, like I've looked at some interesting sort of, if we gave a bigger map, I guess what I look at is that whole notion. I think it's, I think it was Tufte that Edward Tufte talks about it, but it's that whole notion is like, I like to come in high to give you that high level view and then let you drill down. So I'm really trying to conceive how we're going to let you drill down through maybe, how can we see bigger networks and then allow you to focus in on a particular network. Those are some things. Like I said, I've got some access to some really good data people here. The good thing about being in Canada, we've got some great programs to help support on some R&D. So I know some good data scientists, and I've got some things that I'm looking at on that side to bring in some more R&D. But again, I'm really happy with the feedback from you guys to go, help out with some of the sort of the use cases to say, hey, if we could see this and then dive in deeper to see this. Because I know that just the volume of noise that's going on out there, and it is like any number of analogies, from the needle in the haystack to dipping your pan in the stream looking for those nuggets, right? And therein is one of the challenges, is that sorting through all of that chatter and finding things that are meaningful.
I think definitely a next step for us is we've got an event coming up in Pakistan.
Okay.
It's in Islamabad, so we can take it over as a training tool.
Yeah.
At least for that event to start off.
Yeah.
John, just out of curiosity, do you have users in other countries? Like, for example, do you know anybody who's using it at scale in Pakistan? You might be able to talk about it.
I would have to go back through, and at times what I try to do is because I do a lot of things manually right now, because I feel like if I don't own my own business, then not knowing what's going on with my business doesn't make me much of a business person. So every day I do go through and look at every single profile, believe it or not, that logs into Mentionmapp. I'd have to go back because I know a number of months ago I had quite a string, because what I've found, it seems like at times, is somebody will find Mentionmapp and then they'll share it with peers or share it with other people, because then I'll get this whole string of similar or like profiles from a same country. So now, again, I don't always like to look at a profile and believe that profile tells me anything other than what it's So yeah, I know, for instance, in Pakistan, that I had a run of a group of people that they seemed to be affiliated with the Pakistani military that were probing and using Mentionmapp at one particular time. But in terms of my engagement, is right now I'm just sort of doing this process of filtering through and reaching out. And so, no, I'll have to be right up front, right at this point, is to say that I've got this person that I'm connected to that's using Mentionmapp, that I'm having a conversation like with you. I do not have that. I just know that, like I say, every day I have people from, so like, I think I've had over 90 profiles from over 90 different countries now log in and use Mentionmapp at some point since the end of September last year. I just had my first guy I noticed from Togo in West Africa log in.
Well, once you have Togo, you've got the world.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. But
John,
sorry.
Just for a funny story, if you see a spike in Pakistan like 2011, 2012, we're doing a lot of training on it there, and we actually trained up the Pakistani military. As a side of that, like, so if that was in 2013, 2014, they controlled the access to the only brewery in the country. So we did them a favor and did some technology training for them. So they let us into the brewery. Anyway, I don't know if it's related to that or not, but it was like correlation there.
Well, the interesting thing is that we always knew, like, Google Analytics told us we had people coming and using it, but it wasn't until the end of September when we sort of rolled out that first version of an HTML. Like, we basically wanted to go from the original Mentionmapp that was in Flash to just replicate it, so we didn't shock people too much into an HTML version. And that was one of the things that really kind of stalled us from moving things back in late 2010, 2011, because we just couldn't replicate. We wanted to build a HTML version back then, but we just couldn't replicate that spring physics like we built into the Flash version. But obviously, our timing's much better now because we've found a great front-end tool that's letting us keep that physical property, because I do think that's one of the, you got to get beyond cool, but I do think a lot of people love that first when the map opens and changes. There is that visual, organic effect that kind of wows and dazzles, a little bit of sizzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how would you compare yourself to, like, do you play around with NodeXL or like other tools in the field? Like, what would you say that differentiates Mentionmapp the most from your like your kin, what am I looking for?
I've a little bit at NodeXL, but I'm definitely not an expert at it. And I'm aware because that's my job, but I don't spend a whole lot of time sort of poking and prodding at some of the other guys. So I guess for me is that I have this take is when I look at things, I can go, oh, engineers built this. And no offense to engineers,
Right.
but like for us, my big thing is I'd like to think that we're putting design before engineering, and my goal is really to try to keep a real clean interface to really make this in terms of the experience that you have when you're navigating, when you're using the tool. Keep the design elements first to keep it clean, to because I think there's enough complexity out there, and so simple is hard. And so yeah, I guess part of it is I just want every time that people are coming using Mentionmapp, that right off the bat, just the whole visual experience and sort of the canvas of Mentionmapp is clean, it's not cluttered, and what we're building isn't taking away from that mapping experience. And I'm excited that there are other tools out there, because it just keeps help validating that visualizing this unstructured data matters. And so yeah, I guess for me, as the more I see, the more it just gives me validation that if we keep on our our design first focus, and our conversation with the people that are using it focus, and like I say, not trying to build something to make investors happy. I
have to say the interface is actually, like, it reminds me in terms of functionality of NodeXL, but it's way simpler to actually click around and see the network. You don't have to spend a lot of time. Yeah, it's interactive.
Yeah. I also like the fact it enables you with something like social media. It's so easy, even with these very slick platforms that enable you to analyze the content. It's just very easy to get overwhelmed by the amount of content that you're seeing, and I think this enables you to kind of hone in on, even if it's just a handful of posts or one post, to be able to sort of hone in on that and really like save it, and even the ability to print, even though like scheduling exactly. Being able to hone in on some of that content and focus in a way on how things, on that particular moment in time.
Well, a couple of things that we're also looking at is to be able to make it so right now is I wanted to have that saved tweets to be able to download as the PDF, so you would have all those links, accessible and more actionable. But we'll probably do like a PNG version, because then that'll give you, if you need to use the images within those tweets, it'll be easier for you to do things with the images than out of the PDF. And I'm also looking, it's probably going to be a bit more of a challenge, but because you can actually download the whole map. I didn't show you that, but you can download an entire map that you're looking at right now as a PNG file. It would be really interesting to be able to download that whole map as a PDF to see how much of the data within the conversation that we'd be able to embed within the PDF. So like, not only would you have a static image, but you would actually be able to save and have all those links, have all that meta information accessible as well. But that's like I said, we're only building so much so fast, and it's kind of keeping these priorities in mind. But yeah.
I mean, I have no idea if this is feasible at all, but something we've used is Storyify, because it lets you like pull in the tweet and kind of add in text for reporting and gives you a really good timeline of things. Would there be any way to like combine the two, or I don't? Are you familiar with Storyify?
I am.
Okay.
I've seen Mentionmapp in a few Storyfies post event, which is always nice.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, as I'm not one to, I'm really cool about potential partnership. I've had people ask about, the embeddability of Mentionmapp, which is something we've thought about. Again, I guess my whole thing is that I'm always happy to take potential use cases, and if these are going to be distinct value adds, then we'll figure it out. And I'm not adverse at all to finding people that have either got open APIs that we can access information from, or get introductions, or just reach out to other social platforms to figure out how we might be able to integrate.
Cool.
Yeah, you mentioned potentially having a filter on there, maybe by country or.
Mm-hmm.
So what were you thinking on that side? Like, how would that look?
Well, I think we know that with Twitter is obviously not everybody identifies themselves. So I'm not too sure. I've got to dig in myself and look at how Twitter sort of geotags or geofences everybody. So I don't have the hardcore answer of how it will look right now, but I say that I know that being able to give you a more geographic view, and I think even if it's just a filter, be able to go, hey, I want to see, by this country, this hashtag, who's using it by this country. So, yeah, uh-oh. Can you hear me now? Oops, I think we might have lost you. There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Experiencing temporary technical difficulties.
Check VSEC moment.
Well, you can blame it on me. Yeah, so I definitely know that geography is really important, and be it how can we look at this hashtag by country? How can we look at something by city, by region? That'll be something we're going to have to figure out, just to give you the slider type tool to be able to filter that.
I had a quick thought for you. I know you said so it's not really related to peace tech stuff, so sorry, but I know you said you're really into NASA. Have you attended any of the NASA socials, or I don't know, like it might be difficult for you being in British Columbia, but just a thought. I don't know if you could, because I think they might be interested. Like they usually accept people who have like who are very active on social media, and they might be interested in seeing things. Usually it's like a lot of Twitter and Facebook stuff, but it might be cool for them to see something else. Or at least to apply one of those when I'm sure you have like one when a NASA social is happening.
I'll keep that in mind. I guess right now, like I said, is that it's a big wide world, and I have that ADD thing going on, squirrel. So I'll add that to my list. And, yeah, that would be really cool. And hey, if you know anybody that you could introduce me to make that connection, I wouldn't say no.
I might be able to. Yeah,
keep that in mind. It's just
yeah, I could throw some into it.
Yeah, because I mean, it's amazing what NASA's done socially and I mean, that was one of my highlights. I had a chance to interview Chris Hadfield when I was doing my freelance writing career. So getting to interview and write about Chris Hadfield, our great Canadian space station guy, that was a real highlight too. So. And if any of you are interested, there's a really cool company here in Vancouver. It's called Earthcast. It's something you might want to look at. So it's Earthcast with a U. They've got an open API. They're doing some amazing things. They actually now have their own satellites. So for Earth imaging, and again, thinking about seeing what's going on in the world from a different perspective, Earthcast is just amazing. And so, yeah, their whole business model is about trying to make imaging more accessible and more affordable. And so I just really recommend for you guys is to maybe take a look, because you might have some people that could do some interesting hacking on their API.
Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah. But I see we've made it to the top of the hour. So if there's any more questions, I'm happy to take them, but I just want to be respectful that of your time and all your jobs, and this has been great.
Yeah. Well, maybe for next steps, I don't know, no hurry at all, but if you could invoice us for $70, we'll go ahead and we'll set this up. If you can look for a Pakistani user that's been, we'd love to bring him out to Islamabad and then use this at our next event in late September is a starting point. And then Riley could use it on our social media analysis, or a lot of us could use it as well.
Well, what I could do, and I guess this would be a little bit on the just on the QT, because I'll go back and look at some of the profiles that have come in, hit Mentionmapp, and I can at least highlight to you that these are some people that I've noticed have been using, and then I'll let you make whatever decisions from there.
Yeah, I'm sure we could find somebody too, but yeah, that sounds great.
I'm good with that. And Giselle, I'll send you a link. I'll send you a link with the information to get signed up and everything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, John. This was great.
And I'll send around your contact information so everyone can feel free to get in touch.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Don't be shy. But thanks so much, everyone. Making it happen.
Thanks, John.
All right. Thanks, John.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now. Cool.
Fly a trainer.